Thank you all for joining me today. My name is Fred Mastropasqua, and I'll be talking to you about my case study with ScrumAtScale and how it affects product owners and large teams. The client I worked with is a large global client with over 200,000 employees. They're based in the financial and accounting sector. And a group that I worked with started out about 15 members working on a web-based application for internal use there. When I first arrived, the team was already about three sprints in. So I got in, they were excited about doing Scrum, and they just took off and tried to figure it out along the way. They had one ScrumMaster, they had 3 product owners, and they had a team of about 15, right? Usually I can't get enough product owners, so I was glad, at least they at least have someone as a product owner. They had a vision, they were excited to use Scrum, and the business was participating daily. These are the pros that I found about this team. Some of the issues they had due to their size and their makeup was that they were running their product ownership as a committee, 3 people trying to make a decision, and their Scrum events wouldn't fit within the time boxes that were allocated. So they were finding that their sprint plannings and various events were expanding the time box. And they had no roadmap. They knew they had a lot of work to get done, but they didn't have a roadmap for it. So we implemented some changes. We did a story mapping session with them. We broke them into 2 teams. We implemented a Scrum of Scrums and a Meta Scrums. So we took one of the product owners truly represented the business and could actually make those decisions. And so we made her the chief product owner. And the other 2 product owners, we put them on their own team. Their velocity just from splitting up the teams and hiring new members increased about 40%. And that was mainly because of a lot of the members were new and learning the technology and learning the products. After 4 sprints and running in this fashion, their velocity increased 280% just from everyone getting up to speed on the product and having 2 separate teams. The upsides or the pros to the format that we found with this is that the team's velocity increased so much that they ran out of work. They ran out of actually ready to go product backlog items. Each of the teams sat with each other. So before they were kind of spread out across the room because they were a large, big team, and now that they were smaller teams, they're actually working side by side. And the Scrum events fit within the time boxes that were allocated. Cons to this is that the product owners couldn't keep up, which kind of alludes to we could have probably broken it down even further into smaller teams. And they realized from doing a story mapping session, they were 4 to 5 months behind schedule from where they wanted to be. So then we implemented a few more changes. We broke up, they hired more people. We broke up the teams more into 5 different groups. And we took all the offshore team members and made them their own Scrum team versus having them allocated and dispersed across the onshore teams. The pros to this dynamic was we finally implemented the EAT, the Executive Action Team. They met once a week. Prior to this, they did not have that. The teams were able to bring in their delivery time by 4 months. They're actually able to deliver from being 4 to 5 months behind schedule to delivering on time on the month they were supposed to deliver. Cons we still had here were that the product owners each needed about 2 business analysts just to help them with all the tactical work and getting the product backlog items ready to go for the teams because they were moving that quickly. And so again, kind of alludes to we could have went with even smaller teams where each product owner could handle their small teams. In summary, right, things that we're realizing is that you've heard of the Harvard study where 4.6 people is the ideal size. Well, we found there's another study as well that talks about, teams that are 4 or less are less effective and teams that are 5 or more, so it still falls within that 4 to 5 range. There's actually 2 different Harvard studies. One's the 4.6 and there's a second one that says between 4 and 5. And so less is more, right? Smaller teams would have been even more effective with that group. Our future hope is that we're working with other groups within that organization, and so we have a long-term vision, which you can see here, is to actually bring in 3 additional groups within the organization and have them roll up to an executive action team globally. And that's it. Thank you for your time. Open to questions. Yes?
What did this company actually do?
The company itself is a large accounting financial company. The team was responsible for building a product internally to help them deal with compliance, and the product actually helped the company save 400% man hours in just their processes alone. And really, they produced a really great outcome for their customers. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It looks like you were sharing ScrumMasters. How did that go?
Yes, the team makeup had a shared Scrum Master across 2 teams, shared Scrum Masters across 2 teams, and 1 Scrum Master for the offshore group. Some of the downsides to this was each team wanted to run their own retrospectives. They did do a kind of a group planning, but they each individually ran their own retrospectives, and that was a struggle for the Scrum Masters, is trying to, some of Scrum is a 20% overhead with all different events. Having them jump between 2 different teams ate into a lot of that overhead for those individual Scrum Masters and leaving less time for actual day-to-day.
So the key message seemed to be that it was just from breaking into smaller teams. Was there anything else that went alongside that, or can we take it from just the...
Good question. So breaking into small teams alone added to the velocity, but it was really the Scrum of Scrums master driving the team communication, because with the 5 teams, there really had to be a unified message, unified release. That drove to the communication and clearing up dependencies, so that was a key issue. And also, once we introduced the executive action team, they were able to clear a lot of roadblocks that were due to other departments within the organization, such as infrastructure that was outside of this group's control. That alleviated a lot of the roadblocks and helped clear that out. So it was a combination, small teams, the Scrum of Scrums communication, and the executive action team really helping the teams to increase that velocity. All right, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.